All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Adventures in Angular. I'm the host, Aaron Frost, with Hero Devs. On the panel this week, we have Alyssa Nicoll.
Hello, hello. Oh, is this the time when I intro, or do I intro?
This is the time.
This is the time. Okay, I'm sorry. I totally butchered your intro. But my name is Alyssa Nicoll. I am an Angular GDE and also an Angular developer advocate at Kendo UI. I love all things front end, and my eyes start to blur when we kind of delve into the back end of what I like to call Angular. But I try to keep up with these hot shots. So yeah, that's my intro.
All right. And next up, with a less verbose introduction, is Shai Reznik.
Are you kidding? Less verbose? I was born for that.
He was born for verbose.
For verbose.
His middle name is verbose.
Yeah,
You said make it long.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shai Reznik, and I am the founder of angular.com. And I do stuff. And I love the Angular community and the host, Aaron Frost.
And we got Joe Eames.
Hey, everybody. I'm Joe Eames. I'm the CEO of Thinkster.io and a Google GDE and a lover of all things Aaron.
Yes. And today we have our guest of honor. We have Tomas. So, Tomas, please introduce yourself to us and to the audience.
And make it as verbose as you want.
Yeah, you feel free to go ahead.
I mean, we have an hour, so I will try. Yeah.
Let's see if we can get that.
My name is Tomas, or as we say, Tomas, and I am a software engineer and also the GD, so Google Developer Expert. And I also am very much in love with Angular as a technology since Angular.js days, going strong until now. And that's kind of it. Writing a lot about the Angular on the Medium, many blog posts, trying to do some open source on the GitHub, like some starter projects and so on, some libraries, stuff like this.
This episode is sponsored by Sentry.io. Recently, I came across a great tool for tracking and monitoring problems in my apps. Then I asked them if they wanted to sponsor the show and allow me to share my experience with you. Sentry provides a terrific interface for keeping track of what's going on with my app. It also tracks releases so I can tell if what I deployed makes things better or worse. They give you full stack traces and as much information as possible about the situation when the error occurred to help you track down the errors. Plus, one thing I love, you can customize the context provided by Sentry. So, if you're looking for specific information about the request, you can provide it. It automatically scrubs passwords and secure information, and you can customize the scrubbing as well. Finally, it has a user feedback system built in that you can use to get information from your users. Oh, and I also love that they support open source to the point where they actually open sourced Sentry if you want to self-host it. Use the code devchat at Sentry.io to get 2 months free on Sentry's small plan. That's code devchat at Sentry.io.
By the way, Tomas, behind the scenes story, you said you're in love with Angular. Mishko said that he's in love with you, just so you know.
Oh my God.
And you told us pre-show that it is 8 p.m. your time. Where are you at?
So I am in Zurich, Switzerland, currently, even though originally I am from Slovakia, same as Mishko.
Respect.
There's the connection.
So
the
is it
Slovak gift to the world, the Angular.
you said Tomas? Tomas, isn't that French for cheese?
No, I think it's French
fromage.
for the damage.
Fromage.
Dommage is actually the fromage. That's the
Fromage.
cheese.
My bad. Same ending.
They don't speak French, actually.
I don't either.
I know. I'm like, how did you know that?
No, I just know the second half of it.
Random French facts.
Second half of the word.
Yeah, fromage, Tomas. I don't know. They sound like.
Okay.
So we got Tomas on here. He's going to be. We wanted to talk about getting good with schematics. So just so everyone knows, Tomas is one of these people who's going to try and convince you the schematics are useful.
That's right.
That they're good for you and that they have a meaning and a purpose in this life.
Who are these people?
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to give him some airtime and we may regret it, but go ahead. Let's have you sell this to us, Tomas.
All right. That sounds like a tough call, but I think you kind of wrote part of it, or? You should know. Anyway, so the schematics, Angular schematics.
Wait, are you trying to say I caused it?
Well, I think you blessed us with the blessing of Angular schematics, which
I didn't.
helps us. Not at all.
No, not at all.
Igor was
Frost,
the
I
one.
want you to take this one for the team.
Okay.
Hans.
All right,
Hans.
I did. You're right. I built it. I built schematics. Alyssa needs
Not a single character written, no.
Yeah.
By Aaron. Never contribute.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think they are really great because, I mean, I hate to type and I kind of have like this keyboard dyslexia. So when I try to type and like I try to type fast and like I always make like these typos, and who likes to do that? And also, you know, like whenever like I'm doing a lot of contracting, and then whenever I join some organization and then they have like some wikis and like 3 pages of the same thing, how to get started, and they have this custom stuff, and then it's like outdated, and then you think, okay, like I need to use like this special component framework, and I need to use this special like data access library, and then how do I set this up? Like there is no docs, or maybe it's outdated, or maybe it's like in 3 copies and stuff like this. And I mean, when I'm joining these projects, or like not only me, but like many other people, like
Yeah, you're not the only person on the team. There's other developers.
exactly, there is like people coming and going, like many externals, at least here in Switzerland. So they are coming and going. And how cool it would be if everybody just can expect like this default flow. So, okay, like I ng generate this and that. Okay, I scaffold the standard Angular CLI application without any crazy setup. Like how cool would be that? That was always like my thinking.
It's cool, but this isn't Hogwarts, right? So we don't get that kind of magic in the real world.
That's true, but we can try. We can try.
Okay.
No, I love my copying and pasting from other files.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Shai hit it on the head. So
Okay, Ward.
don't try and
let's forget about the schematics. Let's forget.
Don't try and tell us that you're going to discourage us from Shai's go-to copy paste.
Not at all. I do it every day. I mean, like that's the most normal thing to do. But still.
So what other options do we have, though?
Let's imagine. So like when I'm trying to show this to people, then I always like just start like with generating like this empty CLI project, and it has like literally nothing. It just shows this Angular logo. Welcome, cool. And then we are thinking, okay, like so we need like some kind of architecture, no? So like we need some modules, some features, preferably lazy loading because we like performance and this kind of stuff. And now, like, what are our options? So maybe we can go like and read some docs. Okay, how do I do this? How do I do the routing? I don't remember the syntax. So where can I find it so I can copy paste it? Or I can ng generate module -- route. And if I forgot that it's -- routing, I can say -- help. And it will tell me that there is this flag. So that's kind of cool. Or let's say I know I want to use like SAS because this component framework, like from my organization, is in SAS. Or
No, because you're bitching and you want to use SAS.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I want to feel sassy in my day job. So exactly. So, and again, like maybe I forget how to do this, but then I can say like, okay, -- help. Okay, so there is this style flag, so I can pass this in, and it will even tell me like which are the options. So that's kind of cool, like because I don't like to read the docs. I just like get the things done. And
so you think that like the CLI could replace basically all of these intro docs, is what you're saying?
Well, that would be a very daring thing to say, but let's allow us to dream. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I would love to like join a new project and like, okay, like, so we have these 3 packages. Here are the components. Here is the data access. Here is whatever the crazy thing we have. So just add it and the setup will happen and we are going. Yeah, that would be cool.
So I may have misunderstood you.
Okay.
But it sounds like you're trying to imply that all the things that we love about the Angular CLI, that we can generate components and it scaffolds up all of our stuff and that it takes away all the craziness. You're trying to convince us that that's all schematics.
Well, if you say so, I think, yeah.
That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, all these things we have been already doing, that's kind of the schematics. Like even when we are creating application with ng-new, who knows what's going on deep down?
It's magical. Nobody knows.
My God. Get out.
Wait.
So what you're saying is we already love schematics.
Yes.
Okay. What else are you saying?
Not enough. Not loving. Not enough love. They deserve much more love.
All right. So I think everyone knowing that the CLI is built on top of schematics, I think we all get at least a handful of things you could do with schematics. You can create new apps. You can create new workspaces for a mono repo type thing. You can add libraries to your project. Okay. What else could you do theoretically with schematics? Yeah, because you're talking about like it's going to...
Can it fly a plane?
Yeah, like what else can we do with schematics?
So like, let's say, I would guess like for most people, like the standard path would be something like, okay, we generated this project, we have it, we have a application in it, cool. We generated some components, but it kind of doesn't look that great out of the box, like plain HTML in Chrome. Okay, the font, not the best choice ever. Anyway, so let's say we want to make it look nicer and we want to add some forms or something. So maybe we can reach for the Angular material as like a first choice, like as the default component framework. And then if anybody ever like tried to set these things up, then they know that there is at least like 5 or 6 weird steps you have to do in a correct, well, maybe not the correct order, but like you have to make them all so that you actually see what would you like to see. So, and that's another great thing that instead of doing this and reading this and trying to put this all together, we can just say ng-add Angular material. And it will ask us, do we want a crazy default purple-yellow theme or whatever it is, deep purple-blue? Or we want to use something custom so we can use like the colors of our organization. And then maybe if we are doing something mobile, do we want to add the touch support and stuff like this? And once we answer all the questions, it will just magically add, install, and update all the files so that once we run the application again, it looks great now without much effort. So I think that's kind of cool.
No, that is cool. So I've consulted for some companies where it's like, hey, clone the repo. I mean, we want you to start coding. So go ahead and clone the repo, then do 40,000 things, and then you can finally start to write code.
Like in a week, like
yeah. No, seriously, dude. Like,
I know.
Take 45 minutes to download this virtual machine and then turn it on, and then take 7 hours to sync the database, and then like...
Oh, this is called Monday.
Yeah, exactly. And then submit a bill to Congress to get the API keys granted and your Duo VPN access.
Oh my gosh.
So, okay. So you're saying
SMS gateway is down and like you can go home already.
So you're saying companies should use the Angular CLI schematics interface to automate all that initial setup?
I would love that.
So like, what have you done with it? Like, okay, all right, I could do it. Like, give us some examples of that kind of stuff you've done, because I've never done any of that stuff.
Yeah, so the thing is, so to be 100% honest, like currently in the project in this big insurance company in Switzerland where I'm working currently, they had like a very weird setup where, similar as you said, like clone the repo. So not clone the repo, but it was like somehow like every project was forked like from the starter with the idea that you will kind of sync the updates from that starter into those projects. Of course, this didn't work at all. So now we were kind of like in the process of migrating everything to standard CLI workspace, but unfortunately still with like some custom CLI scripts, like just like some handwritten Node JavaScript. But the idea would be like to slowly migrate to the schematics, at least for stuff like they have their own UX framework. So that's again similar to Angular material. So that would be like a great fit for that like you can set up like this kind of automation and maybe add some other stuff. But in terms of like what I did in my own experience, so I created like this small library, which is called like Angular extension model, which is something like a very, very basic wrapper around this pattern where you have like a behavior subject in your service and use it like kind of as a store, like as a mini store, so you can subscribe to it in component. And like I kind of wrapped it into this model library. And then in that library, I implemented this ng-add, so you can like automate setup, even though it's extremely minimal. Actually, it only installs the package. But then you can also generate like these model services. So already like you get all the setup, you can say for what kind of entity will this be. And you can say, okay, it's just like a one entity or it's like a list. And you can like specify the flag and it will generate your interface, set everything up. So that's kind of nice. And also it will generate you the test stub, which I think is like one of the best thing about the schematics at all. Because like there is always this friction if you want to test and then like, okay, I have to read again, like how do I actually set up the test bed? Like how do I set up like the Angular dependency injection so I can actually start testing? And if you can provide this like to people, like, okay, here is the running test, just add more, that's already something like amazing. which can have like a lot of positive downstream effects. So yeah, something like this.
Okay. So,
By the way, did you hear how we said Angular? This is the correct way.
yeah, that is the right way.
Let me try Angular.
Yeah,
Angular. This is how you say it.
Well, Tomas, you weren't here last week. We officially have corrected the pronunciation. The official way to pronounce Angular is Angular.
Mhm.
Angular.
Yeah,
The global way.
yeah, the global way, exactly. We've globalized it.
Angular.
It's a form of podcast internationalization. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I have a question. About schematics. My first experience with trying to write custom schematics for also a library that I wrote was pretty horrible.
Painful, huh?
Oh.
Very painful. So do you have any tips on, like, I'm sure that this is one of the most wanted use cases for people to customize their like tests and their components and all that stuff. How to approach it? How to figure out the mess? Because if you take like the original schematics for the CLI, it's
crazy.
a lot of magic.
Totally crazy, yeah.
So, do you have any tips on how to do that? And not killing everybody in the office?
I see. I feel you. Yeah, so the thing is now it got a bit better. And actually there is like now this long standing PR in the Angular repository, basically to update the official Angular, the official documentation about the Angular schematics.
Angular.
Angular schematics.
Yeah.
So, and this PR is, at least as far as I know, open like maybe even already for a month. And it will have like a lots of great content in terms of like how to add schematics into like your library, like to integrate it with your library, how to get started, like all the concepts and everything. And it will be like the official documentation on the official Angular IO. So next to the basically CLI documentation. So this will for sure help. And until that time, so there are some blog posts. Actually, I also have upcoming blog posts about this, which is like really, really in-depth, like with many code examples, animations, and whatever. But yeah, I hope that this PR will land soon so that everybody can like really check it like in this predictable location, which is the official docs. So it's kind of where I would expect it to be. And besides that, like if you just want to start like right now, then the best way is really to try to reverse engineer like the original collection of this at schematics/Angular.
Good luck.
Yeah, start with something very simple like enum, or let's say when you see those ones, they are like really huge and they are doing like a lot of things. But in the end, where it boils down to is that there is like this tree, like this kind of central concept of the schematic is the tree, which represents all the files in your workspace. And all the schematics do is kind of like adjust this tree in some way. So maybe like delete some file, create some new files, update files. So updating is kind of more hardcore because you don't want to just use a regex because this can go wrong in many different ways. So you should do like some TypeScript, AST parsing, whatever. So this is crazy. But if you just want to generate stuff, then that's kind of pretty straightforward because you just create like the file in that tree. And it has like a very simple templating syntax. So you just basically create the template of those files, then you load them and pass them into the tree. And then the other step is just like pass the options into those templates. So like, let's say if we are generating like some model service and we want to generate a model service for to-dos, then we just say, okay, the entity name is like minus name is to-do or to-dos. And this name as a variable will be passed into the template and used in appropriate places. And the cool thing about the schematics is that they provide us like with these helpers like dasherize, classify, and whatever. So as we are passing these to-dos, we can use this string in different concepts. So of course we know that the class name is like a camel case and like component selector is like a snake case and this kind of stuff. So and this is provided out of the box. So it enables us to very easily generate stuff without like some crazy setup. Of course, if you want to like modify stuff, that gets like very crazy, very fast.
Okay. On this note, like, okay, so you talked about the templating language, which is pretty easy to see when you look at one of the templates and you see the camel case and all that stuff, the helpers, it's very easy to understand. I would love if you can go into maybe explaining. So you said it's a tree, but then when you look at the code, you see a lot of forks and join and merge and all that stuff that's kind of sound like Git. Can you give like an overview maybe on what the hell is that? Like, why do we need to fork it and then to join it and all that stuff?
So actually, I never really seen fork, but I seen merge and stuff like this. So definitely this kind of stuff is happening. So the thing is like, it's this tree, as we said, and this tree is kind of like the virtual representations of the files on your disk. So this has like many great benefits to do it like this. And the one is that like if there is any error in your schematic, instead of changing and corrupting these files and then needing to do like some git revert or git reset, it will just not happen. And the second good thing about this is like it enables stuff like a dry run. So that means like you can just preview what your schematic would do if you wanted to, but like without like doing this for real for the first time.
Need to create a complex enterprise Angular application? Angular Bootcamp is an intensive 3-day workshop class to learn the basics of Angular through sophisticated techniques for real-world applications. We target Angular 6 and the recent versions, with much of the curriculum is suitable back to Angular 2. Or go beyond the 3-day class with a consultation or project launch with Oasis Digital, the team behind Angular Bootcamp. We can assist your team or launch your project with advanced Angular topics including scalability, data flow, state management, full stack product design, and more. Contact us for a private class at your location or buy a ticket for public classes in various cities around the US and occasionally in Europe. Online live instructor training is also available at angularbootcamp.com.
Tomas, what about when the schematic does things that are... that preview really depends on how good the preview tells it what it's going to do, right? Because when you're generating like new Angular like components or things like that, it's mostly like I modify this file and I create these files. But if a schematic gets really complex and does really complex things, then the output doesn't necessarily tell you very much.
You are right. You are 100% right. It doesn't, at least until now, show you like what are the changes inside of updates. Maybe it's coming later. I don't know. But what I meant more is like that. Okay, like you are sometimes, at least in the beginning when I was using it, I was a bit confused about the paths. And then like I can try it out until I figure out like to where do I want the files to appear or how to say. So more on this level. But it's not yet supported to see like the diffs of the files, even though I can imagine that this should not be a big deal to provide this kind of support because they have all the data.
Yeah, just don't do rm-rf on your hard drive. And then the schematics.
That's actually a good point because schematics allow you to run like kind of like a subtask. So there is like this thing called schematic context, which gives you kind of access to this function called like run subtask or something. So I guess you could implement something like this with dire consequences. But you would do something like this, I guess. Just for
I'm not sure. I will do it open source and then like a worm.
Okay, but like getting back to what you asked before, so you said like there's like stuff like fork and merge. So let's say like with this templating example, so you have the tree and then maybe you load the template and then you kind of want to parameterize it. So this template is kind of like a subtree, which is totally removed or like not connected to this main tree at all. So first of all, you can apply some rules on the template, which is like to parameterize that tree, that template itself. And then you kind of have like, okay, I have my files and I have this template, and this template is kind of like hanging somewhere in the void on the CPU or wherever in the RAM, and it's kind of not helping. So then there is this way, like what you said, like there is like say merge, like the rule, like anyway, everything in schematic is kind of called the rule. When you're changing something, you're applying the rule. So there is this rule called merge with, where you can take this template tree, like subtree, which is totally separated, and merge it into this main tree. And there are even like some modifiers where you can say like what should happen, like in terms if there are like some conflicts, if you want to override, or like just only if it doesn't fail and stuff like this. But I, to be honest, never really tried them. I never had a need to do that because I was mostly generating new files.
Okay, so basically, if I understand correctly, it's to avoid if there is an error in some rule being applied, then it will revert everything and will not like affect the original tree or something like that of the changes.
So the way I understood is more like that, like one execution of schematic is kind of like, okay, there's this one execution and it either all happens or nothing. So then like when there is an error, that it's like not committed like to the file system. But could be that there are some special merging strategies when partially it's successful that I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think so you have allow creation conflict and stuff like that, which I think if there is an error, it will still be created and all that stuff. But it makes sense. It makes sense like to have it. That's why you need the merge, like to go outside. Like if you're doing a lot of changes, like you're changing this file and this file and this file, and let's say you are downloading one, I don't know, library, and it's not downloading for some reason, and you still want to make the changes regardless of this library, like creating a new project. So if something doesn't download, maybe, I don't know, maybe you still want to create the files and not like block the whole thing. So that makes sense. Okay, thanks.
Definitely. For sure, we could come up like with many use cases when actually like the partial errors don't really matter. And then it would like definitely make sense to still commit it and like fix it like later on or something like this. That's for sure.
Like, let's say the company only has 2 or 3 engineers. Is it really worth discovering all this scaffolding and all these things out? Like, is it worth it? Or at what point do you think it becomes valuable to say, yeah, let's get rid of the wiki or the README that tells them how to do it, and let's scaffold it out. Or sorry, not scaffold. Let's build a schematic to do it for them. Like, at what point do you do that, and why would we use the schematic for that and not something like Salt or some sort of other automation tool like Chef or Puppet or something? Like, explain that to me too. I just want to understand.
So the thing is that's a very, very valid point, because if it's like a couple of developers like working close together, then many things can be omitted, not just schematics, like even the documentation itself. Like if you are in with full contact 8 hours a day and just developing together as a very tightly knit team, then you can skip many things. So currently, like my experience was so that like if you are working like this huge enterprise organization, so we are not speaking about the many developers like in one team, but it's like tens of teams and hundreds of developers. And let's say that this kind of organization mandates like using of the custom UX framework and stuff like this, then that's this other extreme of the end of the spectrum when like you can say 100% like go for this will save you a lot of time and a lot of money. And then the interesting part is there somewhere in the middle. Where does it break? Where does it make sense? Where it doesn't make sense? So I would say that like in a single team, definitely not, doesn't bring much. Or like single team just like taking care of an application, long-term, slowly evolving one application probably doesn't bring much. If it's like, let's say one team which is spitting out like new applications on a high cadence, like application a month on like some small contracts or something, then this can help in theory that you are able to like quickly get stuff done, and you can like even scaffold like some presets. Okay, I have like a CRUD app, I have like this, I have a feature, whatever it is. So this can definitely help. And if you are like if we are speaking about like enterprise development, so we have like multi-team, multi-application scenario with like long-term projects and stuff like this, where people come and go and then they join the existing projects, and like there is like some turnover of people, then I think this makes a lot of sense, because if you can provide kind of like this default Angular experience, which every Angular developer is kind of expected to have experience with, so like everybody knows like, or probably everybody knows Angular CLI, and hopefully most people like discovered ng-generate, which is kind of cool and saves time. So if we could provide people like with this kind of experience, like in these bigger organizations, then I think that would make everybody happier. Like people can get productive, they can feel that they get stuff done fast, and they know like that they are already kind of following these best practices which are shown in these examples which are generated. So I think in the end everybody would win in these kind of like situations. But yeah, if it's like a smaller organization, which like a team which are just taking care of one application and slowly evolving, and this will not bring much. That's true. Like it's maybe they can spend time differently.
Okay. So I just while you were talking, realized how great you're doing at letting us just bombard you with questions and just spitting out tons of answers. So thank you.
Yeah, Tomas.
Right?
Amazing work.
So those are the great questions because I prepared something like some notes, but anyway, I didn't even open it because it's like no need.
Do you have anything from your notes that we haven't asked? Because
that's a good question. Let me have a quick look.
In the meantime, while you're looking, I would say that while you were talking, I was doing something else. No, I thought about I thought about if the current schematics API is like the I don't know assembly, someone should write a higher level language on top of it to make it like easier to create schematics,
like a schematic utility,
script,
like an npm package with some schematic utility functions to make it easier.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
I'm not being facetious. I'm being serious, Shai.
Yeah. Like a new language.
You
like
mean a schema script?
Like a DSL?
Schema script, yeah. Like easier-matics.
Angular schematics language?
And NG easier is something, I don't know. Anyway, we'll think about the name, but let's create a...
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, but that's like actually a good point because maybe I mentioned it previously that like, okay, when you are starting your own schematics project, you can actually use schematics, of course, to scaffold that project, but it's not ng generate, but it's like the schematics itself. So there is actually schematics CLI that already exists. So you can install it like with npm install -g. Because
you remember the Angular Connect talk with the drove the steganographer crazy?
Oh,
with like
yeah, because of
schematics.
Yeah. That's exactly that.
I don't know if they
used it because you don't have to mention the package anymore. The package is default. So it's not schematics @ schematics / schematics _ schematics. It's only schematics blank now. So this got better.
That was an awesome talk at Angular Connect.
Yeah, I still don't know if they try to troll the person who writes like what they're saying, or they were serious about like the...
No, I think they were serious. It was the person who was doing the transcription that was trolling them.
Yeah, he gave up or something like that.
Yeah. The thing is, you could run it even today; it will still work. Like the package is provided by default, but you could write the whole thing and it will run. It will generate you a like empty schematics project.
No, I stopped somewhere around filter. I stopped there, and yeah, I promise not to do it again. Do you have anything that we didn't ask?
Yeah, but what you mentioned, I wanted to get to that, like these helpers. So that's actually a very good point. And this is something which would make a lot of sense in the future, because I mentioned that, like, okay, you create like this empty schematics project and you start developing your own custom schematics, but then you kind of still want to install this default collection, which is part of the CLI, which is called like this schematics / Angular, because it contains a lot of useful helpers, which would be very annoying to like do it yourself. So let's say if you want your schematics to run in Angular CLI, and as we said in the beginning that in the workspace you actually can have even more projects and libraries, so you kind of have to support like the path, so you cannot assume it will be in source, for example. And this default collection has this kind of helpers, like for example, build default path to know like where to put actually those files, so to locate it based on the project name. And this would be actually very cool if this was moved into the like schematics core or something, or like some schematics utils or something. So it's kind of like obvious that you are supposed to use that compared to like kind of hacking the internals of like some default schematic collection. So that would be kind of cool if this was externalized, because those are very useful. And as long as we want to like generate stuff in the Angular CLI projects, we need to do this either like manually or like use those helpers. So yeah, that would be amazing if this was like taken out and put into some reusable package. So it's like, and documented, of course.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Anyone who listens to it, do it. Do it
now.
Do it now.
Do it now.
Get to the helper function.
And now, the schematics.
The schematics now.
Now.
Get to the helper function.
I'm trying to take my schema. Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, sorry, Tomas.
No worries. No worries. No. I think that's very important to bring schematics to the future, and there is no.
Yeah.
They came back to future to save us from the boilerplate, so that's all right.
That's good. I'm glad they did that. Well, do you have any more thoughts before we move on to picks?
Yeah, maybe like one more thing which we can mention is what is currently still also not that great, and I hope it will be improved in the future, is that, okay, so if you just want to create like a schematics project, like a collection, like a standalone collection, this is supported very well. You can generate such a project, that's cool. But if you want to add schematics to already existing library so that you don't have to download like 2 packages or something like this, then this is still kind of like ad hoc development. So you have to come up like with your own tsconfig JSON and come up like with some special build process, which will kind of not shoot you in the foot while building the library itself with the CLI. So this is something which CLI could, in theory, in future provide out of the box, that you can kind of like generate schematics as like next to the libs. So you have like apps, libs, and schematics. And it's actually something which Narwhal NX workspace is already doing. So maybe as a source of inspiration, even though I haven't tried it there, but that would be kind of cool that it's supported by the CLI out of the box. So next to my lib, I can have a schematics collection, and it's kind of integrated out of the box. That would be kind of cool.
Cool. Tomas, excellent guest. Excellent, just barrage of questions. Alyssa's clapping.
But we cannot hear you. Let's do it together, Alyssa.
Okay, you ready?
Wow, thank you.
First clap ever.
Everyone noticed Joe didn't clap. Just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not a clapper. I don't believe it. It's against my religion.
So hug him, Joe.
Sitting in a dark closet, so we really can't, rate Joe not clapping on the scale.
It's so dark in here, I could be clapping. You wouldn't know. You could see it.
This episode is brought to you by TripleByte. Applying to programming jobs sucks. You have to put the right keywords in your resume. You spend hours and hours on the phone screens and take-home projects, and that's assuming the company even responds to your application. Well, if you're a software engineer, TripleByte can help. They work with over 400 top tech companies, from big names like Dropbox and Adobe to exciting startups. You do one brief online interview with them, and if you do well, you go straight to final interviews with the company on their platform. It's like the Common App for software developers. TripleByte does not look at your resume or where you went to school. All they care about is if you can code. I've helped dozens of software developers with various credentials get jobs, and this looks like a terrific way for you to get in and get interviewed and get a job without a lot of the hassle and overhead. You can go check them out at triplebyte.com/Angular. That's triplebyte.com, byte as in 8 bits. As a special offer for listeners of this show, if you take a job through TripleByte, they'll offer you a $1,000 signing bonus.
All right, well, let's move on to picks. Who wants to go first on picks? Tomas, we'll have you go last.
Okay.
Picks. What? Just watch. Watch what everyone's going to do something. You got to do the same thing.
Yeah. No. Just watch us.
By the end of it, if you don't know what we're doing, then
the podcast episode is done. We're not uploading.
We won't air it. Yeah, it's a game.
I will go. I have a pick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
So everyone knows Justin Schwarzenberger.
Schwarzenegger.
That one's close. Shorty.
Tommy in the yummy. The Tommy.
He is on the Angular Era. He's the host of the Angular Era podcast that I'm on weekly. But he's also, just huge in the Angular community and an amazing dev. But what some of you may not know is that he is an author, and he has a book out called Short Stories.
Non-technical author.
Yes, non-technical
artistic
author
authoring
of these amazing short stories. Get it? The pun? Get it?
Wow.
All right. No, it just makes me laugh every time I see it.
They're not long. They're short, bro.
They're short. There is a link in the notes. And oh my goodness, let's support Justin because he's amazing. But
I purchased the short stories. I need to read them.
I did too. I started reading them.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Yes.
All right. Who else has picks?
I have a pick. 2 picks. First of all, the NGBE videos from like November or December are uploaded already, like for a few months, but I just discovered them. There are a couple of nice lectures that I saw there about Bazel and about performance. And so check out their YouTube. I will put a link to that. And also, me and Frosty talked about it before the show. last week tonight with John Oliver. This is like, for those of you who don't know, my Talk NG show was based on this this show, which is hilarious and smart, and not my show, this show, last week tonight.
Last week tonight.
Not the NG show. That was stupid. Yeah. But yeah, so very cool stuff. I just like finished seeing a cool episode about the effect of public shaming, which was very interesting and funny. So check it out. And I will put a link to that as well.
Cool. Thank you. Joe, I saw you raise your hand.
I did raise my hand. I'm always raising my hand. So,
Joe, put your hand down.
How did you see?
I can't. Yeah, how did you know? It's so dark. It's impossible. I am a big fan of lots of things, one of which is Aaron Frost. But I'm also a big fan of Chris Coyier. He writes a lot of really cool stuff. And he writes some interesting stuff over on CSS Tricks. I ended up going over to CSS Tricks, and I think he actually wrote this blog, but I'm not 100% sure if it was him. But I found this other blog over on the CSS Tricks blog that was about Airtable. So if you haven't checked out Airtable, Airtable is like when Google created the Word and Excel online with Google Docs, they did not put Access online. But somebody else did. That's Airtable. They put Access online. So Airtable is like a way better, it's like people try to use.
You just explained Airtable was something that some people don't know. What is Access?
Yeah, it's like a database. It's a database, basically.
Yeah, it's like.
Thank you, Shai.
Google Word. Shut up, Shai.
The days before Angular.
Where Google Docs is like an online word processor.
No. Access, not Google Docs.
I'm getting there.
What is Google?
Listen, so Google Docs is like a word processor online. Google Sheets is like a spreadsheet online. Airtable is basically like an online database where it's really easy to edit your data and get to it and do really cool stuff. It's super awesome. Thank you, Shai.
Does it JSON API?
It does. So actually, I'm not exactly sure what the API is like, but Chris Coyier wrote this somebody over there at CSS Tricks wrote a couple of articles about using Airtable and accessing the data, and they said it was like super simple, and they compared it to the hello world in using Google Sheets, and like so much easier, so much better. And
Arrow, like an arrow. How do you spell the name?
Airtable.
How do you spell it?
AIR, I think.
AIR.
AIR.
Standard spelling, Shai. Airtable. It's Airtable.
We're blaming your speaking and not Shai's spelling.
Joe,
I had a nickel for every time I heard that.
Joe, that's a lot of wind up. I don't know the pick. You either were picking Chris Coyier himself or Airtable or the fact that Chris Coyier is exploiting his employees to write blogs that he uses under his own name. I don't know what you picked.
Here's the best part about my pick. You can pick what I picked. From all of that, you decide.
Ultimate pick.
Yeah. This is on you. This is on you. You have to figure out what I picked.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a buffet of picks, and you get to decide what the pick is. It's a pick buffet.
Thank you, Joe. It's the gift keeps on giving.
I'm gonna listen to the spirit to see what the pick was.
That's you got to be Mormon to really get that. But
so my pick, I'm gonna move on to my Joe. Did you have more ambiguous picks? Or?
There was only one pick.
Okay.
Oh wait,
that was only one of my 4 picks.
Okay.
No, that's it. That's it for
All
me.
right. So I'm gonna pick the people at Narwhal. They're crazy. No one's gonna refute me on this. It's irrefutable. They built a way to use the Angular CLI to scaffold out new React projects. That's a new thing they added this week. So if you want to do like NGX new React app, you can have a new React app with the Angular CLI now, built inside the Angular CLI ecosystem with a custom React build. Anyway, just a thought. Just a shout out to our friends.
Powered by Schematics.
Yeah, all thanks to Schematics. So on topic. And I'm gonna pick the Narwhal folks for that one because that one's pretty friendly when you think about what they're doing with that. So I like that.
Or trolling, but yeah.
So all right, so Maj.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to pick like Uphill Conf. So maybe some of you know, maybe not. It's like the Swiss conference in the beautiful city of Bern, which is this year taking place the 2nd and the 3rd May, but it's actually every year. And then this year they have great speakers like Jay Phelps, Andres Staltz, Dominic Elm, or Gerard Sanz. So if you are anywhere...
Tomas?
Yeah?
Can I clarify, is that Bern, Switzerland or Bern, Idaho?
Bern, Switzerland.
Okay.
They're almost
sure.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm just giving shout out because it's organized actually by my colleagues and it's like a really amazing conference. So
Looks like Icicle's going to be there too. What?
Yeah. We clashed with them this year. I feel bad.
What do you mean? Your dates?
It's the same time.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. They actually told me that they had to cancel a couple of speakers because of this clash, but
yeah,
happens. Wow. But that's just a random coincidence.
Shame.
Yeah. Shame. Anyway, besides that, I would like to pick also a release butler, which is a Twitter bot which tweets changelogs of the popular front-end frameworks and libraries. So if you are on Twitter, you can follow. It's called a Release Butler all together. And basically what this does is like it checks like every half an hour, like on GitHub, if any of those tracked libraries had a new release or like a Git tag. And then it kind of takes a screenshot of the changelog and puts it there. So it's kind of like nice ways to stay up to date, like with the releases. And also like for the libraries, so if you are developing like the library of your own, like some open source stuff, and you have it on GitHub, and if you are using GitHub releases or changelog MD file, then you can go to releasebutler.now.sh page where you can actually get these beautiful changelogs for yourself. So it's something kind of like the Carbon, that's this website where you can make like these beautiful code snippets to use in your blog. So this is kind of something similar, but for the changelogs. So it's the Release Butler.
Is he a vampire?
Wow.
No,
that's amazing.
That's kind of like, look, that's like here. If you look at the video, that's kind of like the beard is missing.
It's a vampire.
It looks like a vampire.
Yeah, it looks a bit like a vampire.
Trains all the releases, yeah.
You want to hear something even spookier? So while you were talking, I was going to Twitter and I was starting to type RE and it showed me only Release Butler, nothing else. Only Butler.
This is like Twitter doing it.
Where's the tinfoil cap?
Yeah, like what the hell? Spies? Yeah. Who spies on this? Anyway.
Okay.
They are everywhere.
All right, guys. That's I'm gonna wrap it up. Thanks for coming, Tomas. Great guest. Round of applause. We're happy to have you. And
thank you for having me. It was amazing.
Thank you. It was very good.
To the listeners, we'll say thanks, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by Cachefly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with Cachefly. Visit CACHEFLY.com to learn more.